Protect your car with 3W Liners all-weather floor mats. Made from durable materials like TPE and rubber, our mats are designed to withstand rain, snow, and mud with deep grooves to trap dirt and liquids. For a custom fit and advanced protection, visit 3W Liners. That's the number 3, WLINERS.com today. This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
Mariette's on the move.
What?
Mariette's on the move.
Again?
Mariette's on the move.
If you are dreaming about moving to a new city to pursue the life of your dreams, this podcast is for you. Moving 18 times in 23 years to 5 of America's top cities, I know it's not easy to make those decisions alone. I help you develop the dream, the plan, and the move, even if we need to get scrappy to get you there. I'll be doing interviews, career and city spotlights, and sharing my crazy moving stories, tips, tricks, and scams to avoid. Traveling to explore your dreams has never been easier. Now let's get moving. Hey y'all, I am doing a solo episode today. I was listening to the Mel Robbins podcast, who I just absolutely love. And this was on March 25th, and she did a podcast around 3 small decisions that make you feel incredible. Do this every morning after waking up. And the first one that she talks about is false confidence. And I'm looking at my phone. So those on YouTube, which I don't know if you know, but we have a show on YouTube now. So like anything that I'm recording on the podcast, you can actually watch on YouTube. So I love that. Just little plug there. But she was talking about false confidence. And it was funny because I was recording today with an awesome young woman named Kelsey O'Connor, which if you haven't listened to that episode yet, please go back and listen to it. Like just an incredible woman. She graduated college about a year ago. She had a really bad injury. She had to overcome all of this adversity. Just an incredible story. But it was funny because I was listening to Mel's podcast. Like I have a speaker in my shower and I love to listen to podcasts always. I've always been into podcasts. So it was funny because I turned hers on and I was like, I got done with work at like, I don't know, 5:10-ish or something. No, that's wrong. It had to be like right after 5. And I was like, and I just had been in a funk all day. Like I just been tired and I'm finding myself going to bed super early because I'm waking up at like the crack of dawn, like 4 or 5 in the morning. I don't know why. I think my hormones are all over the place, but it was funny because I looked at my watch and I was like, all right, I have a half an hour in theory, right? I'm just going to jump in the shower. Like it just felt gross. Like at one point today that I felt like I was like sweating a little bit and I like took a walk over lunch. And so I was like, I'm just going to take a shower. I'm just redo my makeup, wash my hair, blow dry it out and everything. And because I had such a funky day, like in the shower, I just like stood there and had the hot water like pouring on me, which felt awesome. And I'm listening to Mel Robbins' podcast talk about false confidence and how, and the concept. And it's an actual, like I looked it up. It's a cognitive bias. But it's about how you like overestimate when you can do things and like how quickly you can do them or like what you're doing. And I was like laughing as I'm in the shower because I'm like, oh, well, that's literally what I have right now. False confidence that I can get ready, get the podcast set up, get everything going, print out my questions that I had for her. Cause like after watching her commencement speech, she did the NC State commencement speech. I was like, oh my gosh, I have so many questions for her, So like all of these things that I needed to do. And for whatever reason at 5:05, I thought it was a good idea to jump in the shower and completely get ready. So then of course, through the whole episode, I felt like I was like sweating. I have the fan on above me. But it is one of those things that the whole time I was listening that I was doing the interview with Kelsey, I kept thinking like, I'm now sweating because I put myself in a position to be rushing around after I got ready, which was the point of me getting ready. So I wasn't gross and sweaty and felt awful. And now I feel that way again. But I wanted to kind of relate that to moving because I think we do that. And one of the things that we talked about in the episode with Kelsey was just the fact that, like, you know, she graduated college and she's watching everybody, including her twin brother, move to different states and do all these big things. And it was hard not to compare, right? And I think we often do that. We're like, oh my gosh, I want to move to San Diego. I'm just going to, you know, sell all my stuff or, you know, put my stuff in storage and I'm just going to go and I'll figure it out when I get there. And what ends up happening is that you have this false confidence that, one, you can figure it out. Two, you're going to make it out unscathed with no stress and you're just going to YOLO, right? But what ends up happening is that in your day to day, like in that present moment, it is stressful. It is hard. You question your judgment. Your brain is a problem solving device and you end up, you know, trying to solve all these problems at once. And it makes it even more compounded that maybe you didn't put enough thought into the decision. Maybe you shouldn't have moved. Maybe you should have waited a year and stayed at home, or stayed wherever you are, depending on, you know, where you are in your life journey. But I kind of felt compelled to like sit down and talk because I know that I do this. And the fact that I've moved 18 times in 24 years to 5 of America's top cities, I know, not only do I know that I do this, but I've also had those overconfident thoughts that, like, you know, I can figure it out and it isn't going to be stressful. This is what I do. I'm good. I got this. And, you know, I've been doing my own framework in the last year. And granted, I think if you've been listening to the podcast over the course of the last year, you know, like 2023 was just a crap year for me. It was the hardest year of my life, the most humbling. I had a lot of loss, a lot of grief, a lot. It was just an extra year. And, but I still have these thoughts of moving, and I'm in that place right now where a lot of my ecosystem in Charlotte has moved away, like my friends and family. And even though I do still have a great community here that I can lean on and have fun with and go out and do things, you know, I long for that familiarity of my family that's like up in Chicago, or like my friends that are down. I have friends all over the country, actually, because I've lived all over. But I'm actually taking a step back, and I did this with my last move too, is doing the framework and going through my own workbook. So I do, if you sign up for my Monday mailer, it automatically sends you a PDF, and I'm in the process of updating it. There's a lot of good little nuggets in there, but like as I'm going through and doing this framework myself, I'm like, gosh, I really need to put more emphasis on this part, or I need to do more on this part, or I didn't really explain this part, you know, well. But it's a lot of different things that you have to consider. And part of that, I have the framework is called FRED. So it's finances. So think about, like how much money you have going into that new city, what the cost of living is, what the cost of rent is, how much it costs to move, just kind of all the hidden costs, all the things that you have to think about when you're actually in that position. Because it's not just like tape and boxes that you're buying. Like the movers are expensive. Even if you rent your own truck, it's expensive. The gas, the, first month's rent and last month's rent and deposit, or if you're buying a house, like, however much you have to put down, selling your old house. I mean, there are a lot of things to consider. And then your robustness is your mental and physical strength, right? So like coming out of last year and being in this like grief funk for I mean, I feel like I'm just lifting out of my grief between losing Emmy and Carter and my brother moving to Knoxville, loss of a relationship, all that stuff. I feel like I'm just now getting to a point where like I feel like me again, and I feel okay, and I feel better. But even when you're a super strong person, you get hit with anything from a mental health perspective. Like any setback could feel incredibly detrimental to where you're moving and your decision making, and you just question a lot of things. And then physically, like from a strength perspective, it's hard. Like you physically have to pick up boxes and move furniture and do all those things. So like preparing for that part. But again, going back to like the ecosystem and being overconfident, like it's also kind of hard to make friends in a new city. You really have to put effort in, and you really have to go through, everything from like if you are taking on a new job to like networking and going on friend dates. I when I when I moved to San Francisco, I was set up on a blind friend date with my friend Danny that I worked with. His cousin lived in San Francisco, and she lived in the city, and I was going to be living in the suburbs, and we ended up meeting and hitting it off. And like, she's amazing. I was the maid of honor in her wedding. Her husband, I hope soon, is going to be on my podcast to talk about negotiating contracts and things like that for, people that are looking to move, to pivot for a job. But I think looking at all of these things, the big question mark is always like your dreams, right? And that's the last part of the framework is it getting you closer to your dreams? And along the lines of the false confidence, and I'm going to get this definition on my phone, there's the cognitive bias itself is from it's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. And it's a cognitive bias in which people wrongly overestimate their knowledge or ability in a specific area. And it says this tends to occur because of a lack of self-awareness prevents them from accurately assessing their own skills. That's huge. Accurately assessing their own skills. And I think when you get into a position where you're just going to up and move, depending on the circumstances, like sometimes you just have to, and that there's no way around it. But I think it's incredibly important to be self-aware of what your strengths and weaknesses are in those regards. But then also like finding a buddy, right? I've talked about this on a couple different podcasts over the course of the last couple months, because I'm finding that even having somebody to talk to, even though I've moved this many times and I know what to expect, Laura from Laura Makes Moves, I've had her on the podcast now a couple times, and I'm so grateful for our friendship. She has become a dear friend of mine. But even being able to have her, like she's putting together this amazing, moving journal. Like it's a checklist of like, it kind of gives you 4 months of moving, but she's got all kinds of stuff in there. And if you get on her website, it's lauramakesmoves.com. If you sign up for her mailer, she sends you like this 47-page checklist of like getting prepared for a move. And this is on top of that. But even just going through, like I'm a VIP, I get to have an advanced copy, and I'm, helping her kind of look through it. And, she's been kind enough to ask me if there's anything I wanted to add or anything like that. But just to be able to have somebody to talk to like her, to be able to say like, hey, I'm kind of in a funk. I don't know, like this new National Association of Realtors, like the new lawsuit that was just won. How does that impact me if I want to sell my house? Or because I'm not really big. I know a lot of people love investing in real estate, and that's just never been my thing. I'm very risk averse, and I know there's a lot of risk, even in renting out your place, but some people are super comfortable with it and they love it and they think that, it's the bee's knees. To me, it's just scary. And I don't love that part. But the other definition that I saw when I was like scrolling through, when I Googled it is, but what I put in there was, what is an example of overconfidence cognitive bias? Because it's either false confidence or overconfidence bias. And it said a real life example of overconfidence bias is people's assumptions about their sense of direction, which I thought was really appropriate. So some people may think they have a great sense of direction even when visiting an unknown area. Because they trust their ability, they refuse to check a map or ask others for help. This can cause them to end up lost. And I thought that was such a pivotal definition, because when we move, even if it's across town and we haven't put a whole lot of thought into the foundation of why you're moving, like everywhere you go, there you are, right? And if you get to a point where, you're making assumptions about how easy this is going to be, or even if you think like this could be hard, but I'll get through it, the impact and the ripples that it has on your life, some people don't really take that into consideration. And the whole reason I put this podcast together. I do the coaching I do. I give the content on social media that I do and the free advice that I have in my day-to-day conversations. Like, I can't even tell you how many times I've talked to somebody and they've been like, oh my gosh, I wish I talked to you a year ago. I so badly regret making this move, or I wish I would have done this differently. I didn't even think about this perspective. I didn't even think to ask anybody about a different perspective. I think that is the difference of you being confident in your decision making and getting somewhere and regretting it. Have you heard of Monat or Modern Nature? I hadn't either before my friend Monica was raving about their skincare products that she's obsessed with. I took their hair quiz to find out which product line would be best for me, since I just happened to be looking for new shampoo and conditioner, and I signed up for their VIP package that got me a little bit of everything to try out. Turns out they are the first anti-aging hair care line in the world, which I didn't even know was a thing. And their products are gluten-free, vegan, and Leaping Bunny certified, which means they're never tested on animals. Now I'm obsessed with their rich formulations that feature botanical extracts, essential oils, and other naturally based ingredients, and I want to share those products with you. I'll put the link in the show notes, or you can hit the faves page on my website. It's safe, EU approved, and clinically tested by third parties, so essentially robustness approved. Now back to the show.
Boom. Play it.
Have you ever listened to a commercial on the radio or a podcast and thought, I could totally do that? Well, I am challenging you today. Being a voiceover artist is an amazing side hustle that can be done from the comforts of your own home. Heck, it can be an amazing career. Just ask Jesse Carroll. Jesse's got over 1,000 voiceover credits to his name. Ever watch Backroad Truckers? He's the narrator. He's also done a ton of commercials for brands you would definitely recognize. If you're ready to try your hand at voiceovers, go to marriottsonthemove.com and head to my favorites page to learn more about his new digital course and coaching package. If you use code MOTM, you'll get 20% off at checkout.
Hey, Micah Burgess here. I just wanted to drop in for a second and let you guys know that we are rebranding my podcast. We've got a new name, My Doula Micah, my birth, my baby, my life. And we are super excited about extending the content that we've got going from childbirth to postpartum. Now we're including family and marriage and just kind of your life in these childbearing years and what that looks like, and maybe give some helpful tips and wisdom. I mean, you know, I'm 51. I got 6 kids. I think I can help you guys with some stuff. There will still be local interviews, of course. And I'm also expanding now to have including more nationwide interviews. We even have somebody from Canada and Australia. So I'm super excited about this process and what we've got in store for y'all. So join us.
I've seen all kinds of statistics, especially because of the pandemic. It threw off the numbers about like how many people move a year. I've heard everything from 11 million people move a year to 28 million people move a year, which is a pretty big delta. But I just think it's interesting to see. There was a study last year that they put out that they had a huge test group of people that they surveyed about whether or not they regret their move. And it was something like 3 out of 4 people regretted their move. Like, could you imagine spending all that time packing, spending all that money moving, and spending all that time getting into a new community and not wanting to be there? And then having to go out and meet new people or find a new grocery store or, even just the day to day. Like, we were on the podcast with Kelsey, we were talking about how just like the effort of having to like change all your addresses and like, figure all that personal stuff up on all your bills. Like, you're changing everything. Like, I mean, I get annoyed with 2-factor authentication, which I know, I work in technology during the day. So I know that it's a necessary evil, especially in today's, awful hacker world. But I just find that such an interesting cognitive bias. And when I was like cracking up in the shower, because I'm literally doing that exact thing right now. And I'm about to get on a podcast that I host, that I'm, supposed to be running and leading. And I'm going to get there with I literally had like 2 minutes to spare when I was like setting up my computer. and I jumped onto Riverside, which is the platform I use, which I highly recommend. If you are, it's the best alternative to Zoom that I've ever. I'm so grateful to have it. I know I pay for Zoom as well because a lot of people, everybody's got Zoom, and it's, for the most part, you can buy it you can get the free version or whatever, but Riverside.fm is awesome. It transcribes everything for me. It gives me like show notes and does all it automates a lot of this for me because I do work a full-time job and I do travel a lot. So, having that assistant, that artificial intelligent assistant has been very helpful for me. But I think that there are other cognitive biases out there. And I know I've talked to my therapist about them because there are a lot of people out there that are all or nothing, that throw caution to the wind, or they beat themselves up for a lot of different things and, use language like I should be doing this or I should be doing that, and comparing yourself to others when it comes to moving. Like I had a conversation with a good friend of mine from college, probably it was a couple months ago. And financially, we both were not in a great place. Like we were just kind of, we both have really good jobs and, she's got several kids and like her kids are in sports. And it was just one of those things where I was like, gosh, I'm struggling right now because I made some dumb moves last year. Plus I had, the vet bills from Emmy, the vet bills from Carter. I had a bunch of, medical bills that I'm still trying to pay off because I had so much that happened last year. And I was like, yeah, I'm just struggling on the day to day. I'm trying to dig myself out. I'm picking up, this side hustle and things like that. But we don't talk about that, right? And when you're trying to keep up with the Joneses, I hate that term, but it's, it's true. Like you're like, oh, okay, well, if I move, then it looks like everything's going well and I have a fresh start. But again, everywhere you go, there you are. And in doing my framework, like especially the financial side of it, even just getting on realtor.com and looking at the two places that I'm considering moving in my next chapter, like really, really plotting it out. Like, okay, well, my mortgage is this right now. In fact, what's crazy is that if you've never owned a house, one of the interesting things that mortgage companies do if you hold a mortgage is like you can choose to put escrow on your mortgage, and escrow is your insurance and the city and state taxes that you have to pay to be a homeowner in that particular city. And escrow means that they will put it into your mortgage, so it's part of your monthly payment. So my monthly payment was like $1,800, and because I built my house and they didn't have an accurate picture of what the taxes were, now they reset it and they reassess it every single year. If your property value goes up, which my property value went up last year, they reassess it. And then what the bank does is they come back and they have to basically make sure there's enough to cover it plus $600. Like that's at least Chase's number is the $600. But so like, even though my insurance doubled this year, which, homeowners, a lot of things happened last year between hurricanes and insurance is really hard in a lot of states. And one of those states that I'm looking to potentially go to is Florida. And Florida has been hit so hard with hurricanes and, the Miami building that collapsed. There's so much out there right now that a lot of insurance companies were pulling out of Florida as a state. And so there was all kinds of talk about, the state government coming up with their own insurance program, which I can only imagine what that would be like. But like you have to weigh those things. And a lot of people don't even think to do that. Even if you got renter's insurance and you're in an apartment building, like that's a different layer of financial obligation that you have that you might not think about until you get there. And you're like, holy cow, my, car insurance doubled just from like moving 3 hours south, or, in my case, my escrow reset this year. And so now they basically said like my insurance or my mortgage payment is going to go up by $200 every single month, or I can pay $1,000 into the escrow fund to like not make it go up, which I'm like, well, either one sucks, right? One, paying $2,400 a month or paying $1,000. Obviously $1,000 is a better deal, but you have to come up with that in cash and you got to do it right away. Right. So having that financial foundation and having money in the bank, we don't often talk about that with our friends because it's shameful, and especially if you're a woman, there's a lot of shame around money and security. And so I think that like looking at the cognitive bias of overconfidence and really not putting the thought into it that you need to could put you in a position that's really difficult if you aren't looking at all of the things you need to do. And it sucks because looking at all those things like this past weekend, and I hired the coach. Like I'm lucky that I get with my benefits package. And this is something that if you work for a corporate company, you can look into your benefits package to see if there's like my company works with Modern Health and I get 6 free within my benefits package, I'm sure I'm paying for it somewhere, but I get 6 sessions with a therapist and 6 sessions with a coach. So I reached out to Modern Health and I said, hey, I would really like a financial coach to kind of help me comb through like my spending habits. And because I just needed a reset. Like one, I had some debt this year, which I haven't had debt in a very long time. I a long time ago was in debt and then I got myself out of it and I did a great job of saving. And that's how I was able to buy my house and, all those things. But then in the last year, things have just kind of fallen by the wayside. I got sloppy and things add up quick, right? Especially when you've got compound interest every single month. Like it's really hard to dig out of debt. And, even just going through the exercises that she asked me to do, I literally had to go through credit card statements from the last like 3 months. Well, she said 2 months, but I went just from January 1st on just to get a good accurate picture of like where my spending was happening. And a lot of it was Amazon. I know a lot of people have fallen into the Amazon trap. It's so easy. I'm embarrassed to even give the number of what I was spending on Amazon, but I don't even have a way of tracking what I bought. It was a lot of stupid stuff, but even just looking at it from that perspective, like if I move to a more expensive state where my, if I sell my house and rent, or if I buy another house and then the insurance goes up and my car insurance goes up and all of those little details that add a ton of money to your monthly budget, plus I'm spending on Amazon, is that going to work? No, it's not going to work. I'm not going to have enough money for savings. I want to put more in retirement. I've always wanted to put more in retirement. But those are the things that when you have that overconfidence or, you just throw caution to the wind and you YOLO it and you just move without actually thinking and putting a foundation in place, those are the things that can set you back where you have to move home or you're put in a really difficult financial position. A couple of episodes ago, I had a woman on that had to declare bankruptcy. She was married, she got divorced, and like it was too much for her to handle. But at the time when you have a dual income, the dual income is kind of a false sense of security sometimes, right? That false confidence. She had a pivot, right? And now she uses the envelope system and she saves money. So all this to be saying, I know I'm going on a tangent and we're 23 minutes in and I thought it was going to be like 15 minutes. That overconfidence, especially when it comes to moving, could make or break your experience in your new city. And part of the reason I became a coach and why I still use a therapist and I still use a life coach and I now have a financial coach is because I want to make sure that in this next chapter of my life, whenever it will be, whether I move tomorrow or a year from now, I want to make sure that financially, mentally, and physically, my community and getting closer to my dreams is confident, not overconfident. I want to make sure that I'm in a position to coach people because I've been through it, which I'm going through now. I love the framework because it can be applied to so many different areas of your life. It doesn't just have to be to moving, but I think that there is a significant lack of joy out there right now. And part of it is because we're making decisions not out of long-term vision, but out of how I feel right in this moment. And that could be, staying out too late or staying up too late or scrolling on social media and comparing yourself, or even scrolling on social media to find joy and see good things like puppies. Like ever since Carter and Emmy passed away, all I've seen on my feed is puppies. And now I'm dreaming about buying another puppy, which is an expense right now that I don't want to incur, right? Dogs are expensive. There is no such thing as a free puppy. I'm just going to repeat that. Like, there is no such thing as a free puppy. Every puppy is expensive. Every cat is expensive. There's vet bills. There's food. There's, them getting hurt. Carter tore his ACL chasing after a bunny, and bunnies bring him joy chasing after them, right? So I think that what I'm trying to say, and again, I go off in tangents. If you are listening to this and, we're not friends already, we are now, because you are learning that I love tangents. They're my happy place. I'm going through this with you. I am doing my own framework, and I am making sure that I set myself up in a way where I am listening to all the thoughts, all the good thoughts, all the bad thoughts, and I am deciphering which one I want to move forward with. And I think that us as human beings need to shift right now, because it is causing people anxiety. It is causing people to be incredibly depressed. And if you take a step back and listen to the voice and really are truly, truly, truly honest about what you want, not what you think other people think you should have, or like what in your heart makes you feel good. If you think about something and you have a visceral reaction, meaning physically it makes you feel one way or the other, lean into that. Don't back away from it. Don't run from it. Lean into it. Why did my stomach just drop? Why did I feel like I just got punched in the gut? Why did that spark interest and joy and make me sit up and be like, oh, I hadn't thought about that. Lean into those feelings and write them down. Like, I have a whole graveyard of journals. I don't love journaling. I go on these kicks where I'll do it for a couple days in a row and then I don't do it for 3 weeks. But even just writing it down on a piece of paper in front of you that you pull from the printer and physically say I am not happy because, or right now I am grateful for, and making that list, I think will help us see themes. It's collecting data, right? Going into a particular area of your life and saying okay, I have been avoiding looking at my finances, and I know I have, right? I 100% have been avoiding that because I did not want to deal with the fact that I have a spending problem on Amazon. And I went in and I deleted the Amazon app off my phone. It was harsh. We had to break up. Jeff Bezos has enough of my money from last year. And now if I want something, I physically have to go to a computer and buy it, or I have to physically go to a store and buy it, just temporarily, until I get to a point where I'm making more mindful decisions instead of just saying oh, it can be here from 4 to 8 today. Great. Got it. Need it. Love it. I have a ton of stuff that I don't need in my house right now that I'm going to have to either sell at a garage sale or return because I wasn't mindful about that spending, but I'm making that pivot right now. I am making small tweaks every single day to support my mental health to get stronger. So I do get over this grief, and I do get over the shame that I felt from making these unwise financial decisions, right? Some of them I couldn't control, but if I, again, going back to the cognitive bias of, if I was putting money in the bank the way I should have been doing it, I wouldn't be in this position, or would I? Right? All I know is if I set myself up for success, if an emergency does happen, then I'd be prepared for it, and it would be a blip on the roadmap rather than a catastrophe. My ecosystem, who in my support system is here in Charlotte? Who can I call at any given moment and have a conversation with them? I can think of 5 people right now that I could literally in Charlotte call and say, I need you right now. And they would drop what they're doing and they would get here. I can think of 5 people that I could call and they would pick up my phone and I could say, I'm in a tough place right now. I need to talk. right? And they would answer the phone and they would answer the call and they would lift me up. Find those people and then lean into where you feel you're not strong, because it might surprise you. Getting their perspective on the things that you're trying to do or the things that you've done and need a little grace and need to hear that it's okay that you're being irrational and beating yourself up. Those are the people that you want to surround yourself with. And I think that if we can get to a place, even if you don't move, that you're content in staying where you are, that is a different feeling. That is powerful. That brings you from a place of anxiety and trauma and grief or whatever it is, because grief doesn't have to be about death. Grief can be a loss of a friendship. Grief can be, I made bad decisions. Grief can be a lot of different things. There are several different stages of grief as well. It does not have to be specifically about death. It could be about breakups and all that stuff. But going through and figuring out who your community is and then saying, like, here's a weakness. I need your perspective. Here is what I'm thinking about doing. What do you think? How should I prepare? Not necessarily what you think, because you don't have to care about what other people think, but how should I prepare for that? Having that conversation with my college girlfriend about the position that I had put myself in and how I was beating myself up, and to find out that she was in a similar position and she was feeling shame for that too. Like, just even having that conversation released us of that guilt and that shame and allowed us to move forward and say, okay, up until this point, I was like that. Now moving forward, I'm not going to do that anymore. And it just kind of freed us up, right? So that's what I want for you. Okay, like 7 minutes ago, I was like, all right, I'm going to wrap this up. So I'm going to stop talking now. All that to say is that if you need help, if you need support, I'm here. You can DM me on Instagram or LinkedIn, or I'm not great on the TikTok, but I'm trying. Or the YouTube channel that we just put together. You can get to my website, join the Monday mailer. I have tips every single Monday. Sometimes I skip a Monday. I mean, I am working a lot and I am traveling a lot. But you'll get a Monday mailer from me every couple weeks at the very least, couple weeks of the month. And I put different tips and tricks, and I talk about the upcoming episode on there as well before the episode's released. You can also go to my website, and literally find my email there and email me if you want to tell me your story, or, you think your story would resonate and help people make wiser choices moving forward about moving because of what you've gone through, and be a guest on my podcast. I would love that. It's everyday people that I'm talking to, and I find so much joy in their stories, and I learn something from every single person. So I hope you learned something today from me. I'm so grateful to have you as a listener. If you like this podcast, please review it. I hate asking for stuff like that, but it's necessary in the podcasting world in order to move forward, in order to get sponsors, in order to, pay for production costs. It's expensive to produce a podcast. But I'm thankful and grateful for anybody that's listening. If I can make an impact on one person's day or week or life, that to me is worth it. So I'm officially off my tangents. I hope you have an amazing day. And if nobody's told you today, thank you. I love you. And I'm here for you.
Well, I could go on forever and ever about moving you closer to your dreams, but I probably should save some thoughts for the next episode. A big thanks goes out to you for making time for me today. And making time for me, you're making time for future you, and we're both grateful. If you enjoyed this content, please subscribe to the podcast, download the episodes, and leave me a 5-star review. I would really appreciate it. In return, if you go to my website, mariette'sonthemove.com, and register for the Monday mailer, I'll send you a free Fred workbook to get your journey started. This is also where you can find all the show notes and all the ways to get in touch with me. A special thanks goes out to Rogue Media for its wisdom and partnership. Until next time, friends, keep moving forward towards your dreams. Oh, and the legal stuff. This podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. I am a certified coach, not a licensed therapist, and this is not meant to replace the professional advice of a physician, psychotherapist, or other qualified professionals. This is solely my perspective based on my own experience and training. Okay, now it's over. For reals. Bye for now.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production.